What's going on, everybody? Good morning, good evening, wherever you are, and whatever time it is, and welcome back to another video with your man, Measureholic. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my Rise of the Julia campaign for Total War Rome 2 Divided Impera episode 12. So today we're not mucking around, we're getting right into it, into our invasion of Sicily. Now, last time I did say that Sicily was basically under our control. Well, within the end turn, Carthage has proven I was incorrect yet again, and is sending more troops to Syracuse. You may have seen that I had my navy trying to blockade Acragas. I was doing that just to try and stop the enemy garrison from reinforcing these armies next to the town. Unfortunately, it didn't work, so I pulled out my navy and moved my first legion forward. I didn't want to commit to an attack just yet, as I know the 1st Legion couldn't handle taking on 2 armies at once. And as you can see here, during the end turn, I pay for my naval mistake, with the Carthaginians sending out a large navy and a smaller one to support it, to attack my very small navy. Luckily, I'm going to be able to retreat from this engagement, and we're going to retreat out of their range. However, as soon as my navy retreats, my army gets attacked. Somehow, the Carthaginians snuck a small army around my main army here, and they're sieging Syracuse. So the army that's sieging Syracuse is going to reinforce the main army attacking us here. So in basic terms, we're surrounded, and the Carthaginians are counter-attacking Syracuse yet again. This is not looking good, but either way, I'll see you guys on the battlefield. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen. See our beautiful armored soldiers there. We have some Syracusan mercenaries on the left flank. We have my Principes for me up the main line here. I'm going to be trying to do this a little bit more with my armies. I'm going to be using Principes mainly as like legionnaires from the Marian reforms of Rome. So we'll be seeing that a fair bit more going forward. Not every battle. I'm going to be mixing it up depending on the situation and the army composition. On the right hand flank we have a small forest where I'm keeping my Velites and my Hastati. Just keeping them hidden for now. I'm going to be using them on the right hand side throughout this battle. Now behind us I set my cavalry and my axemen to form a line facing away from my army, and that's because I was expecting the enemy to reinforce the main enemy force from directly behind me. For whatever reason, it didn't happen like that, even though on the campaign map they were behind us. I don't know why that was a thing, but anyway, at least we're safe, and it's better to be safe than sorry, right? So I'd always recommend you try to take note of where the enemy armies are reinforcing from on the campaign map, and just try to act accordingly, just in case. Here I wanted to get a nice shot of the battlefield. This is a very long, fairly steep hill, and we're on top of it. We're on the left-hand side of the battlefield, and we have a pretty fantastic view, if I may say so. The mods I'm using in this playthrough really do make the game look pretty spectacular, and I hope you guys like what you see. I would really appreciate some feedback. Just drop me a comment. Comments in general are great, I love them, but specifically I would love to know what you guys think of how my game looks when it comes to the visuals. But anyway, after a minute or two of waiting for the reinforcements to come, which they didn't, I sent my cavalry forward to scout out where the Carthaginians were. You have to remember, in this patch of Divided Impera, the line of sight of your army is severely diminished, so scouting is absolutely paramount. It is absolutely necessary. You have to do it, otherwise you can walk into a very easy ambush. Within a minute, the Carthaginian army is moving up towards my army. I did move my army down from the hill. I didn't need to, because the Carthaginians were willing to commit to an engagement very quickly. And I didn't realize this until the last few moments, and so my army was a little out of position here. My left-hand flank doesn't have cavalry support. I am going to pay for that in a second. My right-hand side is fine, though. We have a lot of troops on the right-hand side. We have 3 units of Hastati and 2 Velites, so that's more than enough to hold the right flank against the enemy cavalry. As you can see here, though, I'm trying to get my cav over to the left, but my mercenaries over there are going to take a charge and suffer because of it. We still have the high ground, though. My troops and my main battle line are all in decent positions. It's just our left flank that's a little left out. So we're going to do pretty well in the initial engagements that happen. We do get a couple of units trying to gang up on my cavalry on the left now, but the Velites are really good at supporting cavalry, and they're going to be a really good supportive unit moving forward throughout the Polybian Reform era, which is what we are in right now. Right hand side, we annihilate most of the cavalry pretty quickly. My cavalry unit is going to chase away theirs, and my cav is better. On the left hand side though, my cavalry unit is depleted, and we do get some friendly fire, so that's going to suck. We're going to lose that unit almost guaranteed, but the Carthaginians are going to lose their cavalry as well. I got some nice downhill charges against the enemy main line, and one thing the Carthaginians mess up here is that they don't spread out enough, and so that leaves their flanks open to outflanking, and that's what we're going to do pretty quickly. Now, one thing I want to highlight in this battle, and you'll even see me make this mistake here in a few moments, is that you really don't want to outflank an enemy army too quickly. It's not all about how fast you can do something in Divided Impera. It's very different to vanilla Rome 2. You need to make sure that your flanks and your flankers aren't vulnerable when they do outflanking, or when your flank is exposed. You want to make sure that you have something there to back it up as a plan B. Here on the left hand flank, I didn't really have too much of a plan B since my cavalry were depleted. On the right hand side though, things are looking a little bit better. I still have all my Hastati and my Velites, so I'm going to be using them very slowly but effectively. You're going to see my Velites decimate the enemy cavalry there. They're already routing, and they'll get in and help out attack the infantry in a second. Here we get some nice close-ups of the new Roman forces. These are our Hastati and Principes engaging the main battle line, or our Principes I should say, sorry. Overall, the Carthaginian army isn't really going to get many kills against us. That's mainly because of the new reforms that we're in, but also because the Carthaginians, they have a very Greek style of fighting. They use a lot of hoplites, and they do have a lot of light infantry, as you can see there on the left hand side. However, the light infantry against our heavy infantry that have the same style of weapons, not going to fare very well. You can see they've already lost some of their units on my right hand flank, which is the left hand side of the screen, FYI. But anyway, here you're going to see me make my mistake. I commit to outflanking the enemy army very quickly. They were in a massive blob. It was too juicy of a target to resist. However, in a few moments you're going to see why. That was a little bit of a mistake. I could have paid for a lot more than what I did. But outflanking is necessary. But in saying that, our main battle line is so effective now, outflanking the enemy armies isn't always going to be a deciding factor. A lot of the time, now that we have these really good units, we could just let our units grind through while we slowly outflank the enemy. And you do want to outflank them as much as you can, but then you're going to have instances like this, where the enemy general is charging into my Hastati from behind. Now, he didn't get a very good charge. I could have suffered for that a lot more than what I did, but it also could have been pretty catastrophic for that unit. Would it have turned the tide of the battle? I doubt it. We were outflanking the enemy and using my Velites very effectively. By the way, you'll notice they are in melee, and they're doing a lot better now that they're a more militarized unit compared to the levies. So they're going to be very helpful. But in general, I would just say, once you start really developing your armies, try to slow down on your outflanking. But here we do get a nice solid charge, and with this charge and our outflanking, the enemy army is basically going to rout en masse. You can see hundreds of troops, maybe even thousands, running very, very quickly. The enemy general died within just a few moments of our charge connecting, and that is that. The enemy army routs, and we win the day. Very decisive victory, and I shall see you guys on the campaign map. And there we have it, another Carthaginian counterattack defeated. We didn't take too many casualties. We did a little bit more than what I would have liked, especially on some of my Principe units, and we lost an entire unit of cavalry, which did suck. I was pretty careless with them and deserved it though, to be honest. But it did sting a little bit, especially since nearly all of my troops are fairly veteranized at the moment. They're really experienced, and the cavalry in particular are very experienced, so that sucks losing them. Moving forward here, we are going to send the first legion against Akragas. There are a lot of armies nearby, and the town is going to get a lot of reinforcements. However, this was one of those very few turns where I managed to persuade Panormus to join me in fighting Carthage. So I figured with the reinforcing army next to us, we have a very solid chance of taking the city with even maybe a few casualties. However, the battle does not go according to plan, and things quickly turn out to be not as good as I hoped. Either way, see you guys on the battlefield. So here we are. I'm going to jump right into it. We're forming the army in the usual battle formation, and we're trying to attack the town garrison before the enemy navy can reinforce. From what I understood at the time of attacking the town, all of the enemy reinforcements were going to be coming in by ship, and so I figured I didn't have too much to worry about to my flanks and my rear. Hence why I wanted to attack the garrison before they receive reinforcements. Now, immediately things go wrong. I tried to move my entire army with one command, however, for whatever reason it bugged out when I moved them forward, and it tried to command all my troops to just run into the town, which is obviously a bad thing, so that's a bad start. We lose a bit of momentum, but I do recover fairly quickly, and we form up the line just like I was going to anyway. But again, just a little bit of a hitch that's going to slow down our momentum, which we need a lot of momentum to hurry up and get the garrison defeated before the enemy reinforcements arrive. Speaking of which, it looks like they were heading directly towards where my allies were going. You could see the blue lights coming in, showing where where my ally army was going to turn up. So I figured, hey, maybe my allies will actually do something and attack the navy that's going to land, but we shall see how that pans out. The enemy doesn't like getting hit with our Pila, so they are going to come forward and attack us. Cavalry come out on the flanks. And they kind of just rushed us a little too quickly. I wasn't really prepared, and I wasn't prepared for this. You'll see one unit somehow has got into my very rear lines and attacked one of my Principe units from behind, which is very, very bad. Now, I didn't think anything of it. I just assumed that the enemy garrison had outflanked me somehow. Except then there's a second unit of cavalry that comes in and hits me from behind. So now I'm looking behind my army. I'm like, wait, what? Where the hell did these come from? There's no way I could have let two units slip by without me noticing it. So I'm going to keep my eye on our rear. And then you might have just seen there's a little glimpse of enemy troops coming in behind us. This is going to get very, very dicey very quickly. Our main front line is very hectic at the moment, very disorganized. The garrison coming out and attacking us in the way they did really caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting it, at least not so quickly. And the enemy cavalry hitting us from behind has kind of thrown a wrench into the mix of things. Now, I kind of figured somehow there was a small army next to the town that was coming to reinforce, and so I figured that unit of melee troops that my cavalry are now surrounding was the last unit, and we can surround and deal with that no problem. So after dealing with those infantry, the battle continued on fairly regularly. It was very chaotic, and because of that we took a lot more casualties than we should have, but you can see we are making some solid progress against the enemy garrison. You will see in the background Panormus archers are coming in to try and help us out, but we'll see just how well that goes. But then again, more reinforcements are coming in from behind. I really wasn't expecting that. My general got caught out, as you can see, and I was really just shocked that more troops were coming, and so now I was in a bit of a panic mode. I could see the enemy navy landing not too far away, and we have reinforcements seemingly pouring in from out of nowhere behind us, and we're still fighting the main garrison that's in front of us. This is a really bad situation, and it could be catastrophic very quickly. Minutes go by, we're still fighting the enemy garrison. However, I did manage to rotate my Principes and deal with the last of the reinforcements coming in from the edge of the map. Now we just need to focus on finishing the garrison and attacking the naval troops that are coming in. My Principes are trying to form up a line. I had to commit my general to stop the naval units from attacking them before they were ready, which is okay. My general's got to be pretty hands-on, guys. Is a man who likes to lead his troops from the front, and he's doing so right here. A very rare sight among Roman commanders, especially for the time. But it is going to help out a lot. The Principes get more than enough time to counteract these troops. Panormus, however, is doing what Panormus wants, and that is not helping us at all. Throughout the entire battle, they had 2 archer units running around the rear of my lines, doing a lot of friendly fire, and then their army just ran into the town and took the capture point, and that was it. I was really annoyed, especially since I was counting on them to try and balance the casualties that would be taken from attacking such a heavily defended town. However, Panormus didn't care, and so because of that, as you can see on the bottom, a lot of our units took a lot of heavy casualties. However, I was able to reorganize the troops and bounce back, and we win the day regardless. Now, with Panormus being utterly useless, we still managed to get the town, and we're going to occupy it here in a second. You can have a look at the statistics if you like. Around 1,300 men were lost between us and Panormus. Panormus did somehow lose a unit of mercenaries. I don't know how they did, but they did somehow. I didn't see them doing anything, but yeah, apparently they did. You can see there one of the enemy reinforcing armies was apparently on land, even though they weren't. I don't know, maybe they were just invisible. I couldn't see them in like an ambush stance or whatever. But anyway, that's what happened. We did take a lot of casualties. Most of those 1,300 troops are from my army, as you can see. And then during the end turn, apparently the loss of Acragas to Carthage is very alarming for the other African nations, Sicily, and then the other Sicily faction joined the war against us in the next turn or so. Sicily did it first, and then Sicily joined very shortly after. Not a big deal, we were going to fight them anyway. One thing that could be a potential big deal is pirates. Pirates are back again. You might remember from like episode 2, I believe, where we had pirates attacking the Adriatic coast, and they are back again with a vengeance. This time they're not going to give us an easy victory and suicide into one of our towns. Instead, they're going to sit around and raid and take away money from our merchants, which is obviously a big thing that sucks, because Rome is struggling economically at the moment. We're busy trying to survive the war, let alone expand our economy. But anyway, we do hit the year 272 BC. In this time period in real life, the Romans had only just finished kicking Pyrrhus, or Pyrrhus, however you want to say it, out of southern Italy, and they basically solidified their control of the southern peninsula at this time, which is interesting. Down here in Sicily, I'm trying to organize what buildings I want to have in Acragas and in Syracuse itself. The whole place is struggling on food, but I also need some form of military buildings near the front line ready to try and help out. So Syracuse is going to provide the auxiliaries. I do look here at the auxiliaries that Acragas would provide, and there is a variety of Numidian cavalry, Libyan infantry, and some skirmishers mixed in. However, to me, it's just not worth it. I would rather have a unit well, perhaps not a unit, but a building dedicated to ballistas, and that's what we're going to end up choosing over those auxiliaries. Auxiliaries will be helpful, but we don't need them right now, especially since we can recruit some Syracusan auxiliaries. Here we have the First Navy coming in and taking on a very juicy target. An entire Carthaginian army, a full stack, was out on its own without any protection, and of course that is just too much of a juicy target for me to ignore. We're going to get a nice easy victory against them. I'm not even going to bother showing you guys what happens, as it was that very that quickly and that decisive. They lost all of their units, losing an entire army of just being a little rash and not having escorts with them. We did take some casualties, which did suck a little, but no ships were lost. All in all, a very successful naval battle for us, which is very rare to say when you're playing as Rome against Carthage. Here the Panormus and Carthage thing continues, and I believe this is when Panormus finally stopped listening to what Rome had to say, and they quit listening to our demands of them breaking their client establishment with Carthage. Basically, they were siding with Carthage, even though they were still our military ally, which is a little scary, but Panormus is a very weak faction. They don't recruit very good units. Well, they can't, and so all in all, I'm not really too worried at all. But it is something we need to keep in mind moving forward when we want to invade Africa, if and when we do. All in all, though, it looks like we have a very solid hold over Sicily. I now have the 3rd Legion down here near Syracuse, garrisoning the city, essentially. It's not actually inside, otherwise it would cause some severe diplomatic penalties. Here we have another major development. The Adrician Kingdom is attacking our allies of Veneti, which are in northeastern Italy. That is very scary. The Adrician Kingdom has become a major power in the Balkan region, and basically they can do a lot of damage if we don't play our cards right now. We are going to join the war. We have to support our allies, as our allies are the ones basically protecting our northern border. So we join in, and then here I assess the situation to see what the Adricians are capable of. Unfortunately, they do have a town on the Adriatic coast and a small navy, so they have the chance to do some raiding. Here you can see the Helvetii and Insubres still going at it, but that's fine with us. But anyway, the Adricians do have a border with some of my allies, so I'm going to give a war target. Hopefully that will help, and my allies will actually do something about them. But in addition to that, I'm sending my navy back up to the Adriatic because we need to make sure that the Adricians don't become a major problem on our coastline. So I'm going to be sending the 1st Navy up, recruiting a few more ships to deal with them, and to deal with the pirates. Remember, both could cause major issues for us. And then here we have it. This is where the major issues come in. Not only do the Adricians attack our very important town of Asculum, but they actually have reinforcements with them, which is very bad. Reinforcements, by the way, you will note, are pirates. The pirates are close enough, so they're going to join the battle against our town. However, the order result, for whatever reason, again, is a little broken, and is basically guaranteeing us a victory if I choose a certain stance. I mean, it might not be broken, but I just don't see why they would attack if there's even a possible chance that they will lose an order resolve. But they did, they lost, and now their navies are both weakened to the point where our navy could come in and crush them both. And here we have exactly that. The 1st Navy moves out after that end turn, and we're going to crush an order resolve and crush the Adrician Kingdom's navy. This is excellent. This means if I can blockade the town that they have on the Adriatic coast, we'll be able to quickly make sure that they're not going to be a trouble or an issue on our coastline anymore. I did spot a full stack army there, which is a little scary. We can see that they do have the possibility of sending in armies against us very quickly if they liked. However, again, if I can stop them from creating a navy in the Adriatic, they're going to struggle to send armies against us. And then the next turn we come in and finish off the pirates. They're going to be a very easy cleanup, and it's going to give us a little bit more of our money back, as they were just sitting around raiding our major trading route, which is through Asculum, as you can see the yellow dotted line there.
All hands to the oars.
Got to auto resolve that one away as well. The auto resolve can probably do a lot better than I can in naval battles. I don't really do very well. But anyway, we're going to move forward, and as you can see, the actual Insubre faction managed to take back their old capital of Medlan, which is the capital that I originally kicked them out of, if you'll remember back a few episodes ago. So that's a little concerning. They've defeated one of our allies, and they are coming back and getting territory in our general direction. They're coming back towards us. However, they are at war with Massalia and our other allies, such as the Helvetii and the Veneti. So I'm not too worried about it, but that is something that we do need to keep an eye on going forward. And here we are blockading the enemy port. They have a very small navy, but they have a very large garrison, especially considering that all of their garrison units have a lot of men in them, especially the melee troops, with 300 men per unit. That is pretty insane, and that is very intimidating. Too intimidating, in fact, for us to ever assault the town with just this navy. Perhaps in the future, once we recruit more ships, when we can afford to, but right now, we're just going to focus on blockading. Now, the blockading is actually going to lead to somewhere very interesting. The Adricians didn't like that we were blockading their only port in the Adriatic, and so they came at us with the land army that we spotted down the coast. This is a glorious opportunity. Not only are they attacking us with a full stack army against our elite navy, small elite navy, but they're attacking with a very important commander of theirs this is going to be a juicy target that we simply cannot afford to ignore. I know I usually don't show naval battles, but I thought I'd show this one just so you guys could see the beautiful scenery, and you can even see the town that we're actually blockading. I just showed it there at the right, on the at the beginning on the right-hand side of the navy, which is pretty cool. But to those of you who have missed the naval battle I've shown so far, this is basically how they go when we're fighting armies. I line up my ships. I have my levies split into 2 groups on either side of my flanks. And then everything just goes ram mode, and that's basically it. It's going to get a little bit more sophisticated as our naval capabilities expand, but right now this is all we can do. We can just engage land troops that are on puny, pathetic transport ships that go down in one hit. As you can see, we annihilate the entire first line of naval ships, or of enemy transport ships I should say more accurately, and then we instantly go into the second one. Even my small skirmisher ships still get a one-tap a lot of their ships. The enemy general ship does take a couple, I believe, if you hit him with certain types of ships, but most of my ships are very large. They have 100 men or 120 men per ship, and even my general unit has a very nice ship, so most of their ships are going down very, very quickly. Fire out. I can't say ship enough, can I, guys? Bit of a tongue twister. But anyway, we just annihilate them. There isn't much to show here. I just thought you guys might enjoy seeing a little bit of naval combat and how it goes down. But again, I'm not really going to show this from now on unless we have a very sophisticated battle against like a proper Carthaginian navy, which we hopefully won't for a while, because the Carthaginians are going to be way, way better than us at naval fights, especially against me, because I don't do naval fights often. I suck at them, to be honest, and always try and avoid them where possible. One thing worth pointing out here is that the garrison of the town that we're blockading did send out their ships, and these are the last 2 ships that we're chasing down here. And even these small skirmisher ships proved to be a pain in the butt for us to deal with. They were very small, very fast, and they actually could take a few hits from our ramming, so that was a little scary. You can see here we're basically having a traffic jam trying to chase them down, and they're also doing a lot of damage to my melee troops while we're chasing them. They got off a lot of their javelins, which is not good. But at the end of the day, it's not going to help them. There's just too many of us. They're surrounded, and now they're dead. And with that, we annihilate an entire Odrysian army within just a few minutes. And there we go. The entire navy is absolutely obliterated. Well, I should say the entire army, more accurately. But that's excellent win for us. We are going to release the troops because we only captured a handful, but they're going to give us a lot of money. Again, I said this before and I'll say it again. I don't know why winning naval battles gets you a lot more money than a land battle would. Perhaps because there's ships involved and ships are expensive. But anyway, we're going to get a nice chunk of money that can go into developing our economy and whatnot, which I've been trying to do this whole time. However, it's been a very big struggle so far. But we're still left at a bit of a stalemate with Carthage. We can't attack them, but they can't attack us. And now we have this new menace in the east, the Odrysians, coming up against us. That could cause some potential upsets against us and might even turn the tide of the First Punic War. But we'll have to wait until the next time. So thank you all for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I shall see you in the next one.